What's up, folks? Today we're going to talk about seeding our database in Laravel. One of the most frustrating things when developing a new application is having an app locally but having no data in your database to display. It makes it hard to test, to just work around the app, and to get an actual feel of how it's going to work in the first place. So Laravel makes it pretty simple for us to get some dummy data in our database. So I think just to point out, I have an application here called Relation Bean. It allows the user to enter contacts and then helps them communicate with those contacts at a frequent rate. So just take a quick look. Here's our contacts migration. So this is what our database table is going to look like. Pretty straightforward. Just some user IDs to associate the contact with whatever user's logged in with the app, name, phone, basic contact stuff. So here's the actual database table for those curious, but it should match exactly what's in the migration. So let's go ahead and create a contacts factory. A factory allows us to run a database seeder, which you see here. A database seeder comes with every Laravel project once it's created with the Laravel new command in the terminal. So we can run a quick artisan command, PHP artisan make factory contact factory. We'll name it after the model that we're trying to generate. And then we pass in the model as well. So app/models/contact. And then go ahead and hit enter. Now, if we scroll down to our database folder, inside of there, we should have a factories folder. Inside of that, we'll have a contact factories class with one function called definition that's returning an empty array. Now, this array we will update in a moment, and it will be each column on this database table or model, and we'll tell it how we want it to generate values for those columns, and then we can generate a ton of rows in our database to give us some dummy data locally as we're testing and developing our application. So let's just go ahead and copy our columns from the contacts table over here real quick, and we will comment those out just so we have them as a reference. So I think I have, okay, yeah, we have one user in the database right now. So for now, I'm just gonna hard code the user ID to that one user, since that's all I need right now. You can randomly select an ID from a table, and we're going to do that for the contact status ID and the contact frequency ID that we see here. These are primary keys on the contact status table and the contact frequency table, so they need to exist. Well, at least contact status does. Contact frequency can be nullable, but we're going to make it exist. So contact status ID, and then we can reference our model contact status. We can tell it to select a random ID from that table. And so that is kind of the opposite of what we're doing here with the user ID. For the for the user ID, we're hard coding the foreign key we're referencing. For the contact status ID, we're dynamically selecting a random ID that exists on the contact status table. And you can see here, contact status is actually I'm using the Sushi plugin or composer package, and it allows you to create models which values are just pulled from the arrays within that model. So here's our contact statuses here. All right, so we're going to do the same thing for contact frequency. So we'll just go ahead and Copy that. Contact frequency is also a sushi model, so it's not going to be in our database. It's just a array. Okay, now here's where the fun starts. PHP comes with a faker class, which gives you all sorts of awesome methods here to generate random strings and numbers, whatever you need for that specific column. So name is a string, and actually Faker has a randomly generating name method. So we'll go ahead and use name. Phone, yep, you guessed it. We also have a Faker for phone number. Email, same thing. Faker for save email. Oh, we got personal site. So this needs to be a URL. And yes, we have a URL generator. And then the next three actually are going to be URLs: LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. So let's go ahead and copy these. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. They're all going to use this Faker URL. Then we have a notes column. This is a long string or even a paragraph. So yeah, we can use the paragraph method on Faker. And then finally we have a next contact date, and this will be a date. So we'll go ahead and use the date time between, and this allows us to set a range of dates that it can select from. So we'll say today to 3 months out. 3 months. And that should be all of our columns. Last contact date we're going to ignore. That is set in the workflow of the application. We don't want it to be set initially. And then our timestamps are automatically generated. So let's go ahead and delete this. All right, now let's switch over to our database seeders class. Like I said, this class comes automatically with every Laravel project. It's in our seeders folder inside of the database folder. No big deal there. And all we need to do in here is inside the run method, we need to call this contact factory and tell it, hey, run this for us, please. So first thing we need to do is reference our contacts model. And then we pass in, or we call the factory method, and then how many rows we want to create of that contact in the database. So for now, we're just going to create 150. And then create. That's it. So the final thing we need to do to actually get our database records created is use the DB seed. PHP artisan command, and that's pretty simple. PHP artisan DB seed, and this will call this run method inside of the database seeders class. And right now all we're doing is creating 150 contacts. So let's go ahead and run that. Database seeding complete. Check our database. Okay, perfect. We have 150 rows in our database. Let's go ahead and reload our application. And there they are. That's it. So I highly recommend setting up factories in your Laravel application. It helps tremendously just getting a feel for the application locally as you're developing it. Having no data or having to come in here to pages you've created to actually manually create something is such a pain, and it takes minutes to set up, and you have a ton of fake data to work with in your application locally. All right, that's it. Thanks for your time, folks. I hope you learned something. Bye.